It's your boy ConcertViz34 back at home after yet another week of traveling. Glad to be back home. Definitely glad. And we got some stuff for you today here. And it was a wonderful trip out to the gorge. I apologize if you heard some of the other streams. I was able to listen back. They weren't as good quality. I was on hotel Wi-Fi, and the audio as well was a little messed up because I didn't have this awesome mic, and even if I did, it wouldn't have mattered just because of the way the connections were. But it's better to get something out right away versus nothing. So thank you for those who I was able to meet up with. We'll have Leia, aka DMB Mamas. She will be on here. We are looking to get, I want to check in, my friend John should be coming in to talk about the posters. He got every single poster this weekend that was available. So I'm still waiting. He's not replying just yet, but we're going to look to get him on. But yes, the band did Superstition. They did a lot of covers this weekend. We're going to talk more night 3, but just to give you a breakdown, night 1 had 3 covers. Night 2 had 5 covers, and night 3 had 6 covers. Nights 2 and 3, there were more covers than there were actual songs from any individual album or any unreleased set of songs. And usually that would be something I'd be upset with for a Dave Matthews Band show. But when you go into this weekend and, hours before the show, you think you may not have any music at all, that went out the window. And the covers they did, you could have, you could nitpick them if you wanted to, but at the end of the day, they were high energy, and they also just brought joy to everyone who, again, thought they were getting no music at all. So, that was a big thing. Jacob says they need to be commended for putting together 3 epic shows on such short notice. Any other band would have canceled, but not them. Also, Buddy killed it on drums. Absolutely. And speaking of night 3, one of the cool things is I was actually sitting next to, I didn't have enough time to talk to them really before I realized they knew Buddy. But they actually were there with Buddy, either family or friends. They were there to support him. It was their first night. 3 was their first night because I had talked to them. I was like, wait, hey, how's it going? So, have you guys been here all 3 nights? And I was thinking they're going to say yes, or so. They're like, no, this is our first night. And started talking. They had gotten their seats kind of late, and I'm guessing it's because they were probably backstage with Buddy or just, doing some other stuff to get into the gates. But then the show went on, in between the sets, I was just talking. I'm like, look, I come from a gospel background. Just to someone next to the other side of me, really cool dude. I think he's from this. He lives in Seattle now, originally from Arizona, and he was talking. He said, "Hey, one of my friends. This isn't Buddy's friends or family was on my right. This other person was on my left." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm from Phoenix originally. One of my friends knows Buddy, and da, da, da." And the people next on the right side, I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're here because of Buddy. We know Buddy, da, da, da." So I found out in the middle of the show, and he came back, "Oh, you can't say everything you want to say to somebody in the middle of the show." If you heard the video I just played, obviously there were a lot of people talking behind me, and that's a whole nother thing. But it was cool to be next to people that were there specifically for Buddy, that took in this show. This is for night 3. That took in this show. And for the first time, right? And this is their first Gorge experience, right? And they just are seeing how this band and how the fans are so passionate about seeing this band, even if it is a modified set. So I thought that was pretty cool to be able to be next to people that knew Buddy personally, and then someone to the left who was from Phoenix and knew somebody who knew somebody that knew somebody and that knew Buddy. So it was just really cool. And one of the things I said, and that kind of made them talk, I said something about, listen, I come from the church, playing at the church, and I come from my uncle was a pastor, my grandfather was a pastor, my other uncle was a minister. So I know how the church goes. And if you know anything about the church, especially the black church, even though obviously, right, you can say whatever, but the black church is the culture of adjusting. There's a culture of being ready on short notice to do something because the pastor says it, because the Holy Spirit is moving, and there's a lot of improv and a lot of last minute changes. And Buddy Strong, coming from the church, right? I've known people just like him. There's so much talent in the church. And Robert Randolph comes from the church. Mavis Staples is a gospel singer. You had a lot of people on Sunday that come from that church environment. And from gospel music roots, where you have to be ready to play an instrument. And Buddy can play bass, he can play drums, and he can play the keys. The keys is his primary that he's done with Ariana Grande, with Usher, and many more artists that he's played keys for them. But you have to be ready, right? I've done services, where I'm the electric guitar. I'm thinking I'm going to be playing some lead parts, and the keyboardist doesn't show up, or the keyboardist was in a serious car accident. That happened one time. So here I am having to learn the song, and listen, I am not even close to Buddy Strong or even some of the musicians I just admire in the gospel community. I mean, I do it really for, I work with the children, the youth, high school, the middle schoolers, and they needed someone to play guitar because they didn't have anyone. So I just hopped on a couple of years ago. Long story short, I played, guitar for the youth church. And so long story short, I've seen where I've had to learn like the actual full chords of a song on electric guitar, or last minute bring my acoustic guitar because a keyboardist didn't show up, a bassist isn't here, right? I've done it where the drummer wasn't here, right? So I know what it's like to adjust to last minute in a church setting. All right, you got to do this. And I'm sure Buddy, being the pastor's son, preacher's kid, call him PK for short, you have to, if you're a lot of preachers' children play in the music, and they have to adjust. They have to adjust because sometimes people don't show up. Sometimes the pastor changes his whole mind about what type of song he wants to play, and you got to know how to play it. So salute to Buddy Strong in regards to what he did for the band. Also the bassist from Dumpster Funk, Mr. Tony Hall, again adjusting for yet another show, for 3 shows. And this is the set list here that we have for night 3. And just to break down what we have 6 cover songs, 3 Remember 2 Things, 3 Come Tomorrow, 2 Crash, 2 Unreleased, 1 Under the Table, 1 Dreaming, 1 Before These Crowded Streets, 1 Everyday, 1 Busted Stuff, 1 Miscellaneous Release, 1 Stand Up, 1 Big Whiskey. By the way, the entire weekend, 2 Big Whiskey songs the entire weekend. Lying in the Hands of God, night 2, and Funny the Way It Is, night 3. Those are the 2 Big Whiskey songs. Everything else was from other albums, and I actually enjoyed that. I think Big Whiskey is a great studio album. I don't like DMB playing rock live. I'm sorry. Actually, the one thing I'll say is the everyday songs I do like. I like when it's rocked out for those. I don't like the Big Whiskey stuff because if I want to hear that type of stuff rock-wise, I want to hear it from someone else. Lying in the Hands of God and it is a song that I would pick if I only had to pick one. Dive In would be the other, but I mean, Funny the Way It is actually a song that's grown on me since Buddy has gotten in. It was played so much when I first started out that I got sick of it, but I love it. So the 2 songs they played are ones that I would like. And Granny, aka Sandra Jones, no one could grab you a poster. We're going to actually try to get John Dix on to talk posters. He got every poster from the weekend. And, he can tell us about his experience. It was crazy. And Sandra says, I wonder if Dave keeps track. I believe he does, because he obviously, when he goes to a 3-night stand, he doesn't want to repeat stuff. How much he actually goes into stuff, I don't know. But I mean, they have like everything. They have a list of songs they played all tour. Buddy Strong gave us sent us a picture of that list. that he had. I think that was in 18 or 19. There's a picture of him. There are certain songs, even some rare songs on there that haven't been played in a while. So they have a list too as well of what they've been playing. Let's get to the main part of this as far as the set. We get a John Denver cover, Taking to Tomorrow, a song that Jane likes acoustically and then here on out. And that's a tour debut, Take Me Tomorrow and Here on Out, tour debuts. And then I really want to highlight this, You Never Know. For those of you who aren't guitar players, you never know. You'll notice he has a lighter tan color guitar. That's the raised B tuning. The lighter guitar colors are either raised B, which is a very weird tuning, and then there's drop D for like the Don't Drink the Waters, and those are the lighter color guitars. Stay or Leave is raised B as well. Excuse me, Lie in the Hands of God is raised B. Anyway, Dave kind of messed it up. He aborted it, then he started again to play this. This is probably the hardest song in the catalog to sing and play, in my opinion. To sing and play. Sugar Will is up there. The Stone is there, but the Stone's parts go with the singing, so it's easier to do both. But it still is hard. But You Never Know is probably the hardest one because you have to play all this stuff with your hands, and then you have to sing in a different way. It is very, very hard, and this was impressive that Dave did. After aborting it, he got back, got his reins back, and did this song. I was praying the whole time he would get it completed. But that was definitely a highlight of this, to me, of the solo, the Dave solo stuff. Funny how times, again, everything is a highlight almost, but you never know what stands out. But Dave busts out Funny How Time Slips Away and Take Me to Tomorrow as two covers as part of that. We then get to the Dave and Tim stuff, and we get a couple of songs here. Minarets, Old Dirt Hill. I love how that was acoustic. I think it just was awesome to have a Dave and Tim, and that's something that they play typically. We get a When the World's In, Dave and Tim acoustic. But the other highlight here for Dave and Tim, I think the biggest shock was the Christmas song. I started hearing the da-na-na-na-na. I was like, whoa, we're getting a Christmas song in September. Very rare not to get, very rare to get a Christmas song in the middle of the year. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, you have a Dave and Tim or a special performance, but even look at this, right? So this is Christmas songs performances, right? All these are in December in 18. You got one in 14, 628. That was very rare. And that was in Pittsburgh area, Burgettstown, PA. You have all these that are in December in 2012 for that Away from the World tour. You get one in 2010, and what I'm guessing that's Wrigley, so Wrigley Field, right? So that was a special moment. So that just goes, that was probably the biggest surprise. Look at this, even going back to the 2000s, right? 223, that's still winter time, right? Christmas is over, but winter, all these 12-3, 12-3, 2-9, 2-9. Look at this if we keep going across, right? And you don't really get it that often. This cuts off at February for 96. We can look at 95. We do get a couple of here, and this is overseas, right? That's the 95 Europe tour. And you have a couple, these are early, right? You're looking at 93, 92, 91. So that goes to show you how rare it is. Very rare. But I thought the Christmas song was another highlight. We get so much to say to Too Much. And, you don't have that Anyone Sings a Bridge. Obviously, you need Fonz really for that. But pretty cool to see them kind of stop one song, So Much to Say. And then, they stopped for a second and they went into tonight to Too Much. And The Ocean and the Butterfly was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't looking forward to hearing this song because some of the versions of it from last year Dave played, I was like, it's all right. But listening to it live, it's a beautiful song. I don't know what it is, but being there live and, having Buddy, Dave, Jeff, Rashawn, and Tim there, It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So it changed my mind about that show. I mean that song. Hearing it live just got it. And shout out to Mike here from Canada. And I was able to meet Mike um, and find him because he had some greenhorns on in the lawn. We met up here earlier, this weekend, and he's in the airport waiting for a connection. And just to tell you guys again, we're glad Mike has tested. He's good to go. He had to get a COVID test before he could even leave the United States, right? And I know, Mike, you have a birthday for a child, so that's this is the stuff that the Canadian fans. I really commend our fans north of the border, because if they decided to come, they had to fly over, right? You couldn't drive. You had to fly over, and then you had to get tested to get back into Canada, right? Mike is vaccinated. He's told us that on previous stream. So he's vaccinated. He's all this stuff. He's done everything possible, and he still had to get a test. Otherwise, he would have had to stay in the United States, right? And quarantine. And he says this weekend was unbelievable. So much fun to experience something that will likely not happen again, right? And this is the thing is too, to put this in perspective, these are going to be Mike's only shows, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but there's no Canada shows. So these are his only shows. That's typically where he goes to these gorge shows, because he's in Western Canada, in between Calgary and Edmonton, I believe it is. But this, like the things that the Canadian fans had to go through, I know many of them had to just sell their tickets. They had RVs, they had other stuff. They had camping, so they didn't want to have to rent gear, right? Thankfully, I think Mike, he has people here that he knows in the States, that he was able to do that. But a lot of Canadian fans, I feel for them because they couldn't go. Oh, you might do Denver if the border is open, but not flying again. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Fingers crossed that you can get out to Fiddlers in Denver. But still, like, we really got to commend our Canadian friends. And I saw some jerseys, and I heard some Canadian accents. So unless they're just from like Minnesota, right? You could definitely tell there was Canadians there. Yes, and Granny, aka Sandra, you're gonna be the big 6-0 and go into the gorge next year. 361 days countdown there. But yeah, Ocean and the Butterfly, a highlight for me. That Girl Is You gets a tour debut. I feel like that was Dave saying, "Oh, Concert Viz 34. Oh, I'm gonna do this just to throw it in your face." But at the end of the day, look, again, given the weekend, it is what it is. After that, we get two special things. By the way, this was my 27th full band show. I've been to 29 total shows. One Dave and Tim, and two Dave and Tims. One at Farm Aid, one was SPAC Night 117. So there was my 27th show. So I was like, yeah, I said on Twitter, yeah, Dave knew. He's like, yeah, it's his 27th show. We'll give him a pig number 27 back to back. We're going to talk with Leia, aka DMB Mamas. That's her name in the chat. She runs the DMB Mamas page, which is an awesome page. Follow it on Twitter. And we're going to talk to her about some of this, some stuff here, because she is a huge Beatles fan. Her son's name is Jude. So we'll talk about Hey Bulldog, which hasn't been played since 06, I believe it is. That was the first time, yeah, since 2506. And even so, that's been a Dave and Friends song. Right? Or is this... Oh, that's not right. So we gotta get the link here. But we'll talk to her about that. But had a couple Beatles covers. Yeah, Dave and Friends Caribbean Cruise. And actually, all of the Hey Bulldogs, to my knowledge, are Dave and Friends. Let's see. Dave and Friends. Yep. I'm just looking to see. 611 is, yeah, Dave and Friends, Bonnaroo. Yeah, all the 03s are going to be Dave and Friends anyway, right? To my knowledge. because that's the Dave and Friends tour. I think there was a Hartford show on that one. So anyway, and Connor says, not gonna lie, I'm glad the encores were just Dave and Tim. I actually agree 100%. I loved the acoustic Watchtower, and if you followed me, I hate the modern Watchtower. I hate the modern Watchtower because it's not to me it's not unique, right? Because you just have Tim playing like these loud electric parts, which again it rocks out, it gets the crowd going. But what made the original it used to be an acoustic bass, like the Woodstock '99 is the one I point to. That one is just one that I look at and I'm like, wow, there was so much in the thing about that one, and from that era, those mid to late 90s Watchtowers, they were so powerful, but they were acoustic based, right? It's easy to just have a large wall of sound. You have horns blasting, you have electric guitar blasting. It's easy to do that. To make that, the way those Watchtowers are with Leroy, when you had Leroy, Boyd, Stefan, Carter, and Dave, and you had Butch here and there, in certain eras, but they were it was powerful, but it was acoustic. To pull that off at a large festival like Woodstock '99, and we don't need an electric guitar, right? We're just gonna play it Dave's way, and this is how Dave plays it. To me, that's what I love, and I love the Jimmy thing acoustic, right? Everything of Dave and Tim, I cannot complain about, period. And I will keep it honest. If I don't like something, I'll be honest. Everything Dave and Tim is it is perfect for me. Even if they played You and Me, which I don't like, I'm glad they didn't play it. But even if they played You and Me, Dave and Tim is amazing. And this weekend showcased that. And on the West Coast, they don't get a lot of Dave and Tim, right? They did go to Vegas at one point, and the person next to me from Phoenix lives in Washington State now. He went to one of those shows, not the one that was on the disc, but the one that had some bonus tracks. But yeah, and Watchtower to me is overplayed, in my opinion, for what it is, right? But I'm just glad that I agree. The encores were special with just Dave and Tim. And you know what I like about that too? It's like they didn't push themselves to be like, okay, we're going to end the night on this cover of Superstition. We're going to end the night on this cover of whatever. They said, look, no, we're going to keep it Dave Matthews based. Now they did in the Watchtower one night, but they did really keep it where Dave and Tim, that was the best, kind of the most, they could do anything really. They could pull off anything, and they have the most experience of collaborating with each other, right, and touring with each other of anyone in this group that we had for this weekend. So I thought it was dope. Now we get to this point where we get a Beatles cover, we get a Can't Stop that kind of give them a little break, and then we get to the I Can't Get No Satisfaction performance. I've been to 2 of 3 of these, and I mean, this is a really great thing. I hoped initially that they wouldn't play this after the tribute, right? Keep it more DMB. But I think given the circumstances, given the Railbird, where it's a festival, I get why they keep playing. But it was awesome to have the legendary Mavis Staples come on and just sing it. And from what I heard, that wasn't planned. People close to the stage, and if you were close to the stage, please let me know. But from what I was hearing, it was something that was not planned. It was more like they were scrambling to get her out there. They had a mic, but to have her out there to sing that, and that was perfect for her because she's giving you that gospel. And the Stones essentially fell in love with blues players, right? That's why, like a Muddy Waters song, Papa Was Rolling Stone. The Stone looked up to the generation and era of blues and gospel singers. That's how rock was born, right? The Beatles too, right? So it brings this whole thing full circle when there's a tribute and you have one of the most legendary, soul and gospel singers that's still around, still on us with earth, on this earth, and we're blessed to have, on stage with them. So it was a dope moment there. Tony does If You Want Me to Stay, and then they get into Superstition. So Connor says, I'm surprised Dave picked I Can't Get No Satisfaction to Sing with Mavis rather than Spoon or Long Black Veil. I thought Long Black Veil. The thing is, though, Satisfaction, everyone really knows that song, right? So I think that's why they picked it. Long Black Veil, you would have to have, like, the ladies have to get, they have to, the lovely ladies, when they perform that, I've seen them when I was at the Mansfield 6/7/14 show where they came back for the first time in a while. That's a song where if they had like a whole, now who knows what they would have had planned, but that's something where if she maybe had a practice session with them and she was there all 3 nights, they could have worked on getting that through. Because Long Black Veil, you got to know that song fully. That's one of those, like, that's just a much more internationally popular song. Not that Long Black Veil isn't a popular song too, but I think Satisfaction. And I was at the New Hampshire show. I almost said Nashville, New Hampshire, Guilford, New Hampshire. I was at that show, and I knew that it wasn't going to be something crazy. Even a Gimme Shelter takes practice to get down. And Charlie Watts had just passed away hours ago. So it's a song that I think was easy for them to execute. And a Spoon, now here's the thing is, I thought if Spoon would have been Dave and Tim or Dave solo, that is actually an easy song to play. It's a lot of open chords, which is the first chord you learn when you're playing guitar. And it's the first part is just like you have 2 fingers and you put down your pinky and you go dun dun, and you go to an open chord dun, and then you go to C, and then you go to E, and then you hold your pinky past the E. Like, it's a very simple song. It has some of the easiest chords in your guitar manual. So it's Spoon to me was one that I thought in Let You Down, although that's, it's a little different of a song, but I thought Let You Down was going to be something Dave could play solo, as he did some years ago at Alpine and Deer Creek, where he played that in the 2 sets. But, again, it is what it is, right? They had to do what they had to do, and I'm just grateful for what they played. Now, the Stevie Wonder cover, just to give you some information, your boy grew up, my father has all these vinyls that he passed along to me some years ago. So, and I've been a Stevie Wonder fan for decades, really, right? So I have, like, this is the Woman in Red soundtrack. Stevie was on a huge part of that. My favorite Stevie Wonder album, Inner Visions, right there. Like, your boy, and actually I also had the house music. I had 1984 got some love. Actually, it's gotten love throughout this tour, because a couple of times they've the house music has been Van Halen, and they've done some 1984 and some other albums too, right? But that the David Lee Roth era of Van Halen, you got you Hotter Than July. That's the Happy Birthday to You, and Master Blaster Jamming, and of course the ultimate masterpiece. I went to the Songs in the Key of Life tour. Your boy has it on vinyl. So I love Stevie. I love they did the cover. Was it the best cover in the world? No. But it was a cover that got the energy and closed out a night. Somebody said something, was trying to nitpick it in a video, and I kind of had to reply to them and say, look, given the circumstances, like, oh, this is not. I'm like, given the circumstances, this was an awesome way to end. They really ran out of Dave's songs they could play. So hey, we're gonna do that. Let's see. Bruno says, I'm looking forward to Farm Aid this month and seeing Dave and Tim. Yes, I will be there as well, Bruno. I am Connecticut born and raised. Let's go Huskies. So I will be there as well. And I'm excited for it. I'm excited. I mean, this is the thing too, is I feel very blessed and fortunate. I just happened to go to the Gorge and get a preview of what I'm going to be seeing also, because they announced Farm Aid in Hartford, and I got my warehouse ticket that I'm going to be getting for that show. So I'm going to be able to see Dave and Tim and friends and everyone like I did, and then they're gonna come in the Farm Aid, really, and do Dave and Tim, which again, it does not matter what they play. Now, if they do a Nickelback cover, I probably will not like it, but the full band, there's stuff I like and there's stuff I don't like. Dave and Tim is just amazing. Sandra Jones said earlier in the chat, there's a balance to it, and I agree 100%. There is a balance to Dave and Tim that is just awesome. When Tim gets off that electric, and they're both down there. And what Tim does on electric is even harder than what he does. On acoustic is harder than what he does on electric. It is much harder as a guitar, but I'll tell you, the strings of an acoustic guitar are more stubborn, right? The electric guitar strings are like the child that gets the straight A's. They do everything they do. The acoustic guitar is like that second child. I'm the oldest, so I gotta say the second child a little more stubborn, a little more attitude, they clap back more, or the youngest child. It is it's more difficult to do things on acoustic guitar like Tim does. To play the chords like Dave does, that is it's still not easy what Dave does, but that's more of the practical usage of the acoustic. To do lead guitar stuff and to have fills on acoustic takes a lot more skill than doing electric leads or acoustic chords as Dave does. Dave does the rhythms portions for guitar. So I love how Dave and Tim does it. This show was, the last show of the 3-night stand, and it was a nice bow on a great weekend. But the Pig, I got to give Buddy credit too. Pig is a song where I actually have seen Dave and Carter get out of sync Mansfield 2019. Now that's still rare, but some of those hits and some of those transitions in Pig are very, very hard. And the song did not collapse and blow up. It kept going, and that people have said that's their highlight. And the slow down too much should be a Dave and Tim staple. I think it was awesome. No, I agree. It was awesome. Oops. Sandra says, I think Timmy was playing the guitar while in the womb. Yeah. I think so too. And let me see. Let's see. I don't see John. Let me see. We'll call John to see if it come on. If not, we'll get to you, DMB Mamas. We'll have you on. But let me see if I can get John because he was supposed to be ready. And I don't know where he went. I thought I told him 9. But I wanted to talk to him about the posters. And apparently, the way everything was set up at the Gorge for posters was not organized. Ultimately, my friend did get all of the posters, and he is a huge DMB poster collector. Let me see if we can find. Yeah, I told him 9 Central. Let's see. We'll give him a call, and if he doesn't pick up, yeah, we'll see. All right, he's not there. So, Leia, if you want to join via the link, if you need me to send it again, we want to get you on. We want to talk about your experience at the Gorge here. If you want to click that link, and we'll get her on in just a moment. And I mean, this weekend especially, I was able to meet Leia for the first time. and meet Mike Wilson, who was just talking, in the chat earlier from Canada, and some other people as well. A couple people in the pit. Daily DMB, which is CJ and his wife. I was able to meet them. Just great people. Great people. Dave and Rachel. I had met Dave from Shut Up, I Love You. They've been on the post shows. I met Dave before, but I met Rachel, and we had such a good time. We actually spent like we walked like two miles just by not on purpose, but we were out. They were looking to get some extra tickets, so I was just there to be there for support and to join in on the adventure. And we had so much fun. We were just talking about our lives, about the concerts, and just about everything. And the conversations were, to me, the most important things. And thank you if you're watching this and you said what up in the crowd. There were so many people that were like, hey, Concert Viz 34. And like, it's just really dope. I'm trying to humble myself and ground myself, but I did not expect to, when I started doing these videos, to have people see me at a show. I'm like, yo, what up, what up, what up? But I also had some awesome conversations with people that just had recognized me and so many different perspectives. And some of them, hey, I agree with this, I disagree with that, I like this, I don't like that, I agree with you here, this and that. The number one thing as far as my channel is I'm always open to differing opinions. All right. And I learn a lot. Actually, my boy, I was talking to my friend in Redmond, Washington. We were talking about something unrelated to DMB, but he just added perspective. I was like, this, and this. And I was kind of on a rant. And he's like, yo, this, and this. And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. Like, that perspective is powerful. So I always love the fact that it's not just people who agree 100% with me, but that have like some things, don't like. Everyone is different. And I think one of the sad things about the modern world is if you don't agree with everything someone says, you don't watch it, right? But when I have people come up to me, I agree with this, but this, and this, right? And there was a fan from, I believe it was Indiana. He had Notre Dame stuff on, but he was talking like he's a veteran fan since the late 90s. He was like, I agree with this, but this I don't mind, and this is why, and I'm okay with change. Like, and I talked to some other people about shows and about instruments and about sound mix and just some of the stuff they like. And it is the one thing I missed during quarantine was talking to people at concerts, talking to people at sporting events, talking to people at road races. I do a lot of running. I need to do some more running. I'm a little behind in my half marathon training this year, but it is so powerful. It makes me so happy to be able to be out again and talk to people and have those conversations. That's what this channel is all about, to get real reaction, to get differing perspective, right? The Shut Up, I Love You podcast, their mindset on some of the stuff they want and don't want, or how much they care about that, is different than mine. Okay, I'm going to send it to you on your Twitter page, on your Twitter private messages, and then we'll get you on. Oh, you're having some salmon? All right, DMV Mamas is eating, and it is nice to be home. Actually, your boy came home, and then my car. I got to get roadside assistance out tomorrow. My car won't even start, and I don't know if it's because of the rain. I don't know if it's because something happened when I wasn't here, but my car would not start. So I went out to get takeout. I made some eggs and stuff this morning, but I had to get takeout for dinner. Okay, DMV Leia, it should be in your personal. Your private messages in Twitter. I can also send it. I can send it in Messenger too. We'll get it both ways. That way, whatever's easier. And let's see. And my friend John, I mentioned it on the last stream too. He also met Robert Randolph, which is really cool. No one noticed him. He was in his car chilling, and then my friend John's like, "Hey, it's Robert Randolph." He took a quick selfie with him, which was cool. This is my friend John and Robert Randolph chilling there. But it was really cool to see him. We'll see if we can get and go ahead that DMB Mamas is home as well. And while we're waiting for her, do want to look at what Rashawn said. Now, this kind of brought up. Here is where you could. All right, so I'm going to read this. It says, well, this is Rashawn Ross's Instagram. Well, we're all emotionally drained after this weekend, missing our brothers Carter Beauford and Stefan Lassard due to COVID-19. But we pulled together and soldiered on. A lot of bands would have canceled, but we are not a lot of other bands. We found a way. We came in, put our heads down to give people live music by any means necessary. Buddy Strong is a effing gem. Bringing Buddy into the band is probably the most profound musical decision I've ever made. Keyword, I've ever made. I'm so thankful for him. He's my brother for life. It also meant to be, it was also meant to be that Tony Hall was there with Dumpster Funk and was able in a moment, able to step in a moment's notice. Thanks to Robert Randolph for being there and rocking out with us. I'm on the verge of tears right now as I write this. I'm so thankful that we made it through and have the honor of standing just next to a legend like Mavis Staples on a spur of the moment, unplanned sit-in was definitely the highlight of my musical life. Lastly, a big thank you to our fans for rolling with the punches. We worked really hard to give you guys a good weekend despite unfortunate circumstances. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And got the hashtags there. So, Ants Marching Forum, shout out to antsmarching.org. Interesting discussion because he said, yo, it was me who brought in Buddy, which is the case, yes. And he kind of talks to some people saying, yeah, bro, Rashawn's feeling himself a little too much. I'll say this, Rashawn Ross, you guys know how I feel about his high register. But Rashawn Ross has Dave, and we want to say happy birthday to Leroy. DMB Mamas, we'll get you on. Just stay where you are. We'll bring you on in just a second, but I do see you're connected to this. But Rashawn, once Roy's birthday, he would have been 60 today. He's ironically same age as both my parents, and my dad's from Virginia, just like Roy is, which is pretty cool. Two Virginia men born and raised. But Roy was the person that pushed Dave and challenged Dave and took over the creativity for the band. He was the head coach. And, you know, Rashawn came on when Roy was still with us, and he was kind of like a coach that was like in training. He was like an associate coach or like the stat guy for the team, but he was learning from Rashawn, and there was some awesome evolution of things and growth as Rashawn came on. Then Roy passes, and Dave brings that coach position to Rashawn to be fully, right? Dave focuses on his singing, right? He has his new, he hired Rab, whoever he had before, he let go, and he hired Rab for his voice. He does his lead guitar stuff. He does a little bit of promotion for stuff, but the genius of the music, he had Roy was the person there, and then it was Rashawn. So, DMB Mamas, I think you dropped off. Try to connect again. I don't know what just happened. Try to connect. So, in many ways, as much as he's talking like I did this, he says we, like he was carrying the load. Rashawn has been the coach of this band. Even Dave talked about some of the stuff for like the Ocean and the Butterfly, I believe it was, that Rashawn was messing around in studio, and Dave's like, "Oh, I love that," right? He's playing some scales, and that became part of the Ocean and the Butterfly. So he is a huge part of this, as much as he's not a core member, right? And as much as I understand he gets a lot of hate, and I've been somebody who's been vocal about the high registers, but I will always say he is an A1 talented musician, right? Talented musician. I will never say that he's not a talented musician. And he is somebody who is the re-evolution of Crass. Dun, 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 dun. And a lot of the riffs and a lot of the stuff that is really good about this current version of the band, Rashawn orchestrated. But I understand why people were kind of felt away about how he said this. But at the end of the day, I just think that he's saying this because he is really the quarterback. Dave and Carter do not go home and look at stuff. Like, they practice, right? But they're not looking at what was played. They're not looking at melodies. They're not watching as much game tape as Rashawn does. And that's actually, to me, a good thing, right? Carter loves to golf, right? His life is not consumed by the drums. He's a talented drummer who makes sure he knows he's ready for every game. He goes to practice. He goes to the sit-ins. And not the sit-ins. He goes to the walkthroughs and the sound checks, but he does not think about this stuff nonstop, right? Rashawn is that person. Also, Rashawn is single, to my knowledge, right? He doesn't have a family, so all his main goal is this, right? Dave and Carter, they go home to the, Stefan goes to the politics, right? They have these things they do. Rashawn really is a vital part of this band. They put a lot of trust in him for what they do. So I understand why he said, like, look, he was the reason Buddy's here. And if there is no Buddy Strong, there is no Dave Matthews Band as we know it. They're not as happy, right? Tim had so much joy the first half of that 2018 tour. He was on stage ecstatic after a jam that Buddy did. He was so pumped up, right? The rest of the band has been happy since 2018 because of Buddy. And I've always been a Buddy Strong proponent. I understand why people didn't like it, right, as well. I understand that, right? You take away the violin, you put Buddy on organ for a bunch of stuff. People did not like that because that is like you're taking away the spirit of what was DMB. Right? We lost an organist. But the spirit of DMB is also Buddy Strong. The way he lives his life and smiles in a show where I'm sure he's playing drums on stage with the Dave Matthews Band and really last minute changes. And he's smiling. Night 3, he has his Carter Beauford gloves on. He looks like MJ, Michael Jackson, about to do a moonwalk and has his gloves. He's raising his hands. It was definitely special. Granny says, I love what he brings to the band. I always known him as a vital member of the band, like Jeff. All right, DMB Mamas, we're going to bring on Leah Green, a.k.a. at DMB Mamas. Let's see. All right, can you hear us? Hello? Can you hear us? Let's see. Hello, Leah? You're connected. We can't hear you. think there may be something with the connect. Looks like your network connection. Yeah, your connection. I don't know if you're
Can you
still.
hear me? Marcus!
Hey, we can see it and hear
What's
you.
up? What's up, you guys? Here, say Lila, say hi to Uncle Marcus. See Lila?
Hey, how's it
She
going?
she's like, where's my bone?
So it looks like you made it back home safely.
I made it home safely, but what a pilgrimage that was.
Yeah,
Get a
so
little.
just tell us a little bit about your first gorge trip. What did you think?
So, in hindsight, and I guess on the journey, I realized there to get the lay of the land. Being that this year was almost, I hate to say a wash, but even before this weekend's drama unfolded, we didn't think it was going to happen. And then I didn't know if I was going to make it. And it was a push for me. And I switched my flights and made it a shorter trip. So my trip ended up being with no wingman and a solo journey all the way, not knowing anything, what to expect. It was so amazing, totally in the moment. And, like I was sharing with Joshua earlier, like I could barely even take it in, I mean, I ended up having pit both nights. And so there was that sort of focus to just get there. So, I was an hour away in Wenatchee, and that, being with all the things that I do to sort of prepare for my healthy day, make my smoothie and do my yoga and all that stuff. It's like by the time I went on my hike and got lost, and Marcus, my first meeting with you, I got to be saved by Marcus.
Yeah, I got the picture up here. And
That was so,
I'm glad I
how
was
perfect is
there.
that? I mean, that was so I said to you, I don't know if you'd heard me there, but I feel like you had a premonition that I was going to end up on some random side street neighborhood.
Yeah, that was scary. For those who don't know, this was in Wenatchee. The trailhead, what was that? Silver?
Saddle
Saddleback?
Rock or
I think it
Saddle, I
was
think
Saddleback. Yeah,
Saddleback,
Saddle Rock. But the
Saddle
trailhead,
Rock. Saddleback, yeah.
this trail, and I'm actually glad. I think it was fate. I think it was God. I'm a believer in God, but if you wouldn't have if you wouldn't have gotten lost and I was on my way anyway there, I wouldn't have realized how challenging it is to go up this trail, which is just everything looks the same.
Yeah.
And you go up, but there's not like even like, all right, you go this way for the long route, you go this way for the short route. There's just there's 4 or 5 different ways you can go up this thing, and there's 4 or 5 ways you can come down. And since you got lost, I was more cautious, went down, I got half a mile up, went down, got you back, and then when I went back up, I just stayed lower to elevation so I would have missed the DMB show. So
That was smart. That was really smart. I had no idea that was going to happen. I saw this cool little, I was calling it like wizard praying wizard or something. It was like this cool rock formation, and I was like, I need to get up to that crest there. And so, and also, you know how it is. It can be gravelly and scrambly. It was even reminiscent of like hiking the Nepali Trail to the Kalalau Valley. At this one point, I'd mentioned to you, there's like this spot where it's called the Razor's Edge, where it was like 45-degree slope, like thick sand on a cliffside. And so this, you're climbing up, it's gravelly, it's sandy, but then it's the coming down part, because you're like all spirited and inspired to get to that spot right there. And then it's like, okay, I almost made it there, but I learned at least to turn around, because I knew if I went further, because it was getting sketchy. But then going down, I was like, oh my gosh, and there was nothing to grab. And then there were like bees in the sagebrush beside me. But it was fine. But then that sort of disoriented me a little bit, because by the time I got back to this spot where it was like I had 4 or 5 different options, I was like, oh, I kind of remember, was that the way I came from, or was that the way I wasn't going to when I had this fork? So when I got lost, I sort of just like found myself just wanting to go down in the general direction that I thought that I was in, but obviously, as you know, that I was not. My inner compass was a little off.
Yeah, but hey, everything worked out.
Yeah, and the timing was actually perfect. I mean, a little, moments there matter, as far as when I guess when it comes to posters and stuff, I mean, I am feeling like you don't get a poster unless you can't, period. At least if you're an hour away, that's an hour of line time that you miss. I don't know when they opened those lines. I was really excited to hear John's experience because when I heard he got all those posters, I was like, I wanted all of them. And I didn't get any of them, including that foil tiger mountain
Night
cat.
three, yeah.
Yeah, that was so, and I saw other people with it. And then I didn't even know, you can't see the foil on a picture, it's like you see it close up in real life and you're like, oh man. So that
Yeah.
for me was the beginning of my experience of like, okay, didn't get the poster. I got there a little bit late and I ended up um, just getting right to my spot in the pit, trying to find my location, which is different of an experience than when you're going to just get your seats. They're there, you can meander, you can check it out. And I didn't have that opportunity, or I didn't create that opportunity to sacrifice for the amazing spots that I got both nights that were so perfect. I mean, I definitely feel like I have a poster child experience of going solo and meeting new people, like right where you're supposed to be, like finding your spot. And it was a little awkward at first, especially night two, night one. I met this woman and she was at the back of the pit and she was from Miami. Her name was Karen, and she was like just so funny about her name, being the
Yep, I
current
got it
issue.
pulled up right
Like
here.
nobody's gonna ever be named Karen again, but she like fulfills the role in a real I don't know if I can say badass here, Marcus. I know it's a family show, but in
Oh no,
definitely
it's
in a in a really, she was just so much fun, and she had a crew. They came in on buses, and there is apparently this like big Facebook group that manages like all these tour buses, and I believe they had like six. I'm not the stat person and the fact person, but they had a. I almost want to say they had six buses, but it could have been less. And she was awesome. And then night two was also like epic. The back, I got to experience the back of the pit that night one, and then the space in between the back of the pit and then the group in front, which from the back of the pit looks so dense and daunting. And like it didn't feel appealing on night. It was night two because I didn't actually go to night one, and that's a whole other story just in itself. But then night three was the not getting the poster, and but I got there at about 10 till 5, and um, I just went down to my spot, and that's where I felt a little bit of the awkwardness. But I'm like, okay, I want to get closer tonight. I'd like to experience, a pit experience as close as possible, and experience the opening acts, and really get to just immerse myself. So I ended up behind these four guys,
yep. We got
which
him up here.
yep, which just had which was to the left, like so the center of the pit was really filled back already, and the spot right to the left of the back. I mean, I was just trying to get as close as I could. I didn't really position myself in any particular way, but this was the closest spot I could get, and I was behind these guys. And my first thought was like, man, they're tall, they're having a good old time. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see, or if they're going to focus on my wavelength. And so right away I was like, maybe I'll get one of those like $30 amazing, hey Bridget Hale, I'm just thinking about you right now with those $30 margs. I had a $30 margarita, and I asked them if they would possibly just watch my spot while I went and run and grab that. And they were so super cool, and they just like took me right in. They're like, we got you. And they were just awesome. And I ended up going and getting my margarita and coming back, and they were I call them my pit posse. There was a dad there who's actually the one person whose name I can't remember I spoke with the most. We all did exchange info, so I'll be in touch at some point. But he had a 4-year-old at home named Oliver who's going through, as you don't know before you have kids, you're not warned this. Your kids go through excretory issues at around the age of 4. And it's like as grueling for the parents as it is for the kids. You get like 6 days where you're just like, come on. You're like wanting to bribe them, beg them. They do they hold it in. They do these poses to make it not come out. So he was going through that, and I've been through that. Here comes my 9-year-old. Right, come say hi to Uncle Marcus and everybody. He was going through that. So we had a really funny conversation about, what his poor wife was going through at home. I was laughing because Joshua was like, here's my view. And it was a picture of the stove, we were like, man, we're here. And where can you see?
Hey, Jude.
Hello.
How's it going?
There's Marcus.
Oh, hello there.
That little tiny picture, right? That little tiny thumb.
The future worker at Tesla, I heard. You're gonna
Yes.
change the world.
He's also really now into Apple products. He's really so we've got Tesla and Apple represented there.
So what was happening, Mom?
I was sharing the story about how this guy right here, you can't really see him, I'll show you after. He's a dad and his kids were at home and his son didn't want to poop. And it seems like a lot of kids go through that. So the whole beginning of before that show, we were talking and bonding around that, like somehow it's undescribable angst around when your kids that go through that stage. And so we were having a fun time with that. And then really got to enjoy the opening acts together. We completely, just were on the wave of the river of love from Robert forward. It was his sister's birthday. She was beautiful and adorable. They were so just fun and tight. And then Dave came out. I think he introduced Robert night 2, but I think he came out and introduced Mavis. It was night 3. That's correct. And boy, was that a treat. I mean, I fell in love with her right away. I was practically in tears because she reminded me of my Nana, the matriarch of our family. And yet, times 10, if my Nana were on stage singing like that, describing her heavenly experience, arriving there, and she just brought so much joy to that venue, which was just the vibe that was needed there this weekend. I mean, it all turned into like a miracle. Sometimes the messages aren't directly spoken, and I think there was a real message of hope this weekend. Mavis, one of my greatest, funnest parts was when she was telling everybody to take it higher, and she was, she's watching everybody, and you better take it higher. And she saw somebody, he wasn't taking it higher, and she didn't like that, and she called him out on that, and it was just so fun. And it really elevated that whole experience to a whole other level where, I think it always happens on some level. I know for me, I mean, the show hasn't even started yet. So then got to see David and Rachel, after, watching the opening bands. I heard, because I'm here thinking, wow, like, I don't know anybody here. You had seats, and I knew Marty in the pit, and then there was another guy, a friend of his that I knew, but then all of a sudden I heard Leia, and I turn around and it's David and Rachel, who I totally forgotten had their night 3 pit tickets. And because I'm forgetting who has what when, of course, I barely kept up with my own my weekend. It was just constant focus. And they were there like very close behind us. So we got to hang out a little bit. David, we were laughing because it's like barely seems like, we know each other all here because, it was just so spread out, meeting new people. It was like this huge party. It felt like a massive party where everybody's like interacting all at once in a certain way. And so then, when Dave came out in that format, that alternate format, which is, now I can see where they were coming from when they say alternate format. We're thinking like avatars, like apparently like ABBA is going to be, reintroducing themselves back after all these decades as avatars. And We thought DMB were going to come on with screens. We were like all like, it was like tragic. But no, alternate format. Dave came out first. And so when he came on with Take Me to Tomorrow, you know, for me, this night 3 show is just very personal on so many levels, every song. And so every song just sort of just blew me away that much more. But the cool part was that my crew that was with me, they were all in the same, getting blown away in their own way. And it was just so funny. You know, one guy having a heart attack behind me, one guy like in tears, you know, and so it was like hanging out with the bros, you know. It was like normally I hang out with family or hang out with girls, but it's fun to hang out with guys who are experiencing Dave in their own way, because it is so emotional. And to have such a unique, alternately formatted show, and, you know, coming out with all these, I mean, it was just like hitting me, smacking me over. So by the time, and we already had Come Together the night before, which I'm pretty sure has never been played. I mean, you can confirm that, but when I did a search, I did not find it. And you know the whole story about Tim posting it and my whole freak out because I'm a Beatles fanatic. My dad gifted me all of his Beatles vinyls when I was in like the 3rd grade. And, you know, I had my Beatles through my dad, and my dad and I were so close. And of course, as you mentioned, named my son after the Beatles' Hey Jude. And of course, he is such a Jude. But so we have already gotten Come Together. And then we were calling out opening. And I'm saying, well, you know, I'm not saying they're going to play like Blackbird, but like I want something like that, like unexpected, something, you know, I didn't say cover per se, but just something that isn't predictable. And so to come on with Take Me to Tomorrow for me was like a punch in the chest, because I'd met John Denver 2 months or a few months before his passing, his tragic passing, at a restaurant on Captiva Island called The King and I, which is a 5-star restaurant that my housemate was the sommelier at. I was there having dinner with my mom, and John's mom literally walked in on me in the restroom stall. This beautiful woman with long silver hair. I can't remember if it was in a bun, but she had just beautiful hair, and she was a darling woman. And we just talked it up at the bathroom sink, and then we went back out to our tables. But before we went, she's like, I would love to introduce you to my son. And I had no idea who her son was. You know, one day, I'd love to introduce you to my son one day. And then we went out to our tables, and all of a sudden, she was like, Leia, you know, I want you to meet my son. And it was John Denver at this restaurant, standing over me like an angel with a halo. Like, I mean, I can go back in time and like, he's like the one of like 3 people I've met that have had real life halos. And so I was so bowled over by just, you know, my childhood experience with John Denver, and growing up as a little girl in Virginia, in Richmond, when my parents were still together before they split, and having, you know, seeing him before my eyes, introduced by his mom, right, you know, and then hearing about his passing so soon afterwards was just a very significant milestone in my life, mile marker, I guess. So hearing that was like, you know, I could have just started bawling my eyes out right there, but I was feeling so many emotions, I couldn't really pick and choose one in the moment. One of them was definitely insanity. Like my brain and my heart had been cracked open. And I was just like, one of the questions we were all asking was like, where are we? You know, we were living the dream. And, you know, just every song. And, you know, when they played That Girl Is You, there's a lot of personal feeling with that song. You know, we have a game that we're launching, and you know, as you know, I've reached out to the band about it and mentioned the song, and you know, what's the game? Hallelujah. So, you know, there were a few moments where I felt like Dave was like looking into my soul. And that was one of the times, you know, here on out, Jude and I were just watching a video, and at the end of the song, he just like looks right over in our direction. And Jude, it was like, he just looked over at you guys, you know, and this was about an hour ago, we watched this video. So, you know, it was just very personal. And then of course, when Hey Bulldog came on, I about lost my mind because, well, that song is one. I mean, I am a Beatles fanatic, like a DMB fanatic, and Dave. I've heard Dave say something about owning John Lennon, and I would beg to differ that he's mine because Uncle John. I grew up as Dave did. Of course, we all can claim our favorite musicians. My dad is a Brian John. My grandfather. Both of my grandfathers were Johns. So John Lennon is a huge part of my soul. So to hear them play Hey Bulldog, which is a very obscure Beatles song. In fact, I don't think those guys around me really knew what that song was, which was so cute. And but my dad's best friend, his buddy John, another John, was but a Jon John. He his nickname is Bulldog. So my dad wrote a book of memoir, and the book opens up with him. He's the head of the psychiatric department of Newport Hospital. He was also a counselor of my dad's and one of his colleagues, best friends. Super cool guy. Like if Billy Crystal met like the Dalai Lama, it definitely has this guru sage quality, enlightened quality to him. So I reached out to him after the show, and I haven't spoken to him in like 2 years, and we're so busy. I always seem to call him at the worst time during the week when I just have a moment and leave him a message. And he was I was like, guess what they played? Guess what they played? And he's like, I'm like, you have to guess. I was just, already just kind of my lid was blown open, and I told him that it was like I was, I said, I feel like I'm living a dream right now. And he was like, well, don't wake up. And in that moment, I was like, oh, so you're already there. He was living the dream. He's really in that space already because he has that kind of cracked open wide quality to him in a real, laid back sort of way. And this show did that to me. Everything about this show, hearing Hey Bulldog, I lost my mind. And I feel like Tim was like laughing at me, like amused by my like insanity and excitement, and being able to sing that song with your favorite band, like, and then it just kept going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and I'm still melting. And so that's my download decompression. I'm sure I'm going to want to talk with each of you individually so I can just like explode even more, because I'm definitely having to contain myself right now. But it was amazing. And I also want to just emphasize that I really did enjoy those walks out of the venue after the show, standing there in the pit. It was definitely very like, it was like, hiking down into some like amazing, like Oz, and then hiking out of there. It was very cool, dark, starry skies, even though you're sort of watching the train in front of you and the train of people in front of you. I really enjoyed that experience. I loved going alone. I'm very much my only child. I need to really focus if it's just me, when I have other people, I have like wingmen. My husband is an amazing wingman, and I have like numerous amazing wingmen friends, including Jude, who ultimately became my wingman when they practically threw him at the rail. And I'm like, I'm with this kid, But going solo is a whole different beast, and it gave me an opportunity to stay really present in the show and mindful about recording. I couldn't help but record the first few Dave solo songs. But then once Tim came out, I'm like, I am sorry, but I'm going to enjoy the rest of this night.
Yeah.
It was just really good for me to do that and to enjoy and dance and just be present with the band and, interact in that way with the band when you're so close. I mean, I didn't even mention I ended up being just smack right in between, Dave and Tim are about 10 feet apart from each other. And I was smack right in between them, like 6 people deep in. And that's where I ended up being. And it was like, it was like hanging out with them in like Tim's living room or, at a campsite or at the gorge.
Yeah. Well, hey, we want to thank you so much, DMB Mamas, aka
Thank
Leia,
you for letting
sharing.
me ramble about it. I appreciate it.
We were glad that you went by. I've only gone by myself to the gorge. I know it can be, let's be honest, it can be kind of dangerous. It can be scary.
It was daunting.
But to be able, it opens you up to meet new people. It forces you, and I'm the same way. I like to talk to people and interact. It forces you to kind of have this experience to connect with other people. But we're glad that you're back safe. We're glad that you made it safe. We're glad
Thank you.
You enjoyed and you were able to share with us. But thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your family.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks, everybody. I don't know who's all there, but love you guys.
So happy to see you. So I'll let you spend time with your mom. And yeah, you have a good night. Take care.
Bye, Marcus. Bye, guys.
Goodbye. All right. So thank you to Leia, aka DMB Mamas on Twitter. That was the first full come together by the band. There was a tease some years back, which if you look when I was scrolling, I was able to find that out. And the last thing we want to talk about is what does DMB do next? Here's what I would do, right? This is just what I would do. What I would do is I would highlight more Dave and Tim, right? Tony, I'm sure Tony could stay. I don't know what Dumpster Funk has up, but I mean, he's not going to be like, sorry, Dave, I can't unless he has other shows. But I would say, all right, you don't have Robert Randolph Mavis, right? They have to do what they have to do. I would personally make this a Dave and Tim show. Have Rashawn hop in, have Jeff hop in towards the end of the sets, but I would have this as a Dave and Tim show primarily. That's just what I would do. And I would put, you could put out a press thing, you may not. You could say, hey, due to Rashawn due to Carter and in an abundance of caution to ensure Carter and Stefan safely quarantine, we are going to have the next show be primarily Dave and Tim show. We will have support from other band members like Buddy Strong, Rashawn Ross, and Jeff Coffin. However, this will be primarily a Dave and Tim show. We hope that you'll still join us for these shows, for these upcoming shows in Bend, Oregon, and Irvine, California, and look forward to seeing you on the road. That's exactly what I would do. Because Dave and Tim, they hit. They are a hit. Yes, you have, and Bend, Oregon is a laid back, part of Oregon. It's not a major city, right? It's a nice, beautiful town in the middle of Oregon. It's not Eugene. It's not Portland, right? So they'll love a Dave and Tim type show. This is not a show where you're going to have, it's not a SPAC or Deer Creek where you have a bunch of people tailgating, yelling, screaming, this and that. It's a midweek show in a laid-back town. So I think they should do a Dave and Tim. It should be primarily Dave and Tim. Irvine, California, okay, now you're in Southern California. It is a larger space, but you don't have Dave and Tim shows in Southern California. So I would still look to make sure that you have Dave and Tim be the primary thing. And again, it's a midweek show. So I don't think people are not going to go because it's not full band, right? People have already invested in this. Dave doesn't come out to this part of the country as much outside of benefits and special one-offs, right? So I think you do that. Connor said, I'm sure the anti-Buddy fans will have a newfound respect for Buddy after this weekend. I've already been in conversations with some people and seen some things, and I've seen that's the case. Shout out to Dino, who's a Connecticut resident like me. Great guy, great selfless guy who raises money for great causes, like our local first responders and law enforcement. And it's just a genuine diehard fan. He's been to over 300 shows. He did not like Buddy. And one thing I like about him, he was able to admit that. He said, look, I'm going to be honest. Most people won't admit that. He's like, hey, I got to be honest. I wasn't a Buddy fan, right? I missed, the sound of the band. I missed the original sound of the band when Boyd left. And he said after this weekend, he's just said, look, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it, but now I understand what Buddy does for this band. And that's okay. That's the thing, is like, people that are having this newfound respect, this is what adversity does, right? I understand why people didn't like Buddy, and some people still may not like Buddy outside of this special switch up, right? But at the same time, you learn who people are when they face adversity. I've gained respect for people in the public eye after they face adversity and how they handle that moment, right? We're all human and we all have opinions, and really, you don't know who people are until times get tough. Like you think about even friends and people you date, you don't know who they are until times get tough. And it's kind of sidebar, but this is why I keep friends at a certain distance until they show me how much they care. When there's an opportunity for adversity, this is why, some people are like, oh, and listen, this is your right, right? Oh, I got engaged. We got engaged after, 2 or 3 months of dating, right? I can't do that. I need to see how you are when I'm sick. I need to see how you are when things get tough. I need to see 4 seasons before, I'm going to even commit to anyone. And listen, I'm a dude who comes from a family where my grandparents were married until two of them are still married. They just passed 65 years of marriage, celebrated this in August. And my other grandmother was married to my grandfather till he passed last year. And my parents have been married for 34 years. Uncle's been married for 41 years, which is funny, those DMB numbers. But I'm somebody who I'm not even going to really bring you up a level in friendship or relationship until I see how you are in crisis, because I have no idea who you are. And that's what's awesome about DMB. When they've had crisis, when Pig got all messed up in Mansfield in 2019, and they rallied back and they got back on track, that made me gain respect. When the band had that Super Bowl show, and yes, it was a mess at times, right? The sound, all that stuff. But the fact they plowed through that show gave me respect for the band, right? This band, when there is trials, when there are tribulations, they stand 10 toes down and they're ready to go. Even their best music is about some of the most difficult situations in life. Dave has lost his father at an early age. He lost a sister to gun violence, right? He lost Leroy Moore and played, right? They found out he passed, and none of the shows were canceled, for at least for that initial stretch. I think they may have been for funeral, I can't remember. And actually, I wasn't even like a heavy, like I knew DMB, I had their music, but I wasn't following the tour at that time. But that's the thing, is this band, they even say there were like some of the hardest parts of this band were during the time of the Lily White sessions. And that's, to me, that's their best recordings, right? Before These Crowded Streets is a complete mixed and mastered, masterpiece in 98. But the Lily White sessions, the Big Eye Fish from that, the Captain from that, just, there's such an edge that they couldn't even capture that again. The most complete DMB is incomplete DMB. Incomplete Dave, vulnerable Stefan and Carter, right? And it used to be Boyd, and now it's Buddy and Rashawn and Jeff. Jeff Coffin was just amazing this week. And I say that because a lot of the stuff he does, he didn't get that many parts, but he just did what he had to do. Like, I felt that Jeff should have been utilized more by the band. There should have been some more smooth jazz, but because of just the way things were, he had to kind of take a back seat slightly, just a little bit, right? So I really, really just respect this band. I love this band. Even the stuff they don't do, even the stuff I don't like about them, what they play, how they do, I always respect what they bring to the table. So this was just an awesome trip. Again, thank you for you guys who were able to catch up with me, whether you knew me before it was a planned visit or not a planned visit. This was just an awesome weekend, probably one of the best weekends in my DMB fandom, going back shows since 2012, fans since, about 2005-ish. But this was just a wonderful week. I'm glad I'm back safely after some grueling travel, leaving the venue at about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning to drive back towards Seattle, taking a little rest taking a rest in Ellensburg. That was kind of scary, I'm gonna lie. Next time, this will be the last time. I've done 2 overnight drives. Next time, I'm getting a hotel for Sunday night, and I'll have to figure out. I'll fly out on Tuesday morning, right? But because it is kind of scary, but it is possible. You are able to, if you have an early flight and you're like, what do I do if you go to the Gorge in the future? They will let you stay in the general admission lots. Like, they don't really kick you out. I was able to stay there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours after the show. You can do that, but that drive, what I'll say is, maybe I'll do a video next year on some of the Gorge do's and don'ts, but when you get out there, have a rental. Some people were trying to hitchhike. This is a 2.5 hour drive from civilization. You have to have a rental, have a ride. You can't Uber, right? Know your route because it's rural. Have hotels booked in advance or get the camping thing done. Do your research. And with the posters, we'll try to get John on another day. The posters in the pit for this show, you have to get there early. You should be leaving your hotel by 1 o'clock to get there for 2 or 2:33. But if you want a poster, you got to get there at 2 p.m. every day. You got to be in line because these things go quick. If you want rail for the pit, you got to be there around 12 noon, right? Make friends with people. Some people have to get there earlier. Now, I refuse to get there at 7 a.m. The Gorge is just a venue where I love this area so much, Pacific Northwest. I probably will never get there at 7 a.m. But if you want to be rail, try to get there early or be in the campgrounds. You can check the line out as it goes throughout the morning. But this is a venue where if you want a poster, you can't roll in at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It'll be gone. You can get the general color in poster, but even so, some of that stuff was gone by, I think, night 2. Night 3, I didn't really see any of those color in posters. So this is a venue where, again, if you've never been to the Gorge, plan ahead, know where you are, know your rental car service, have a reservation well in advance. You can cancel these, with free cancellation. The drives are grueling. You go to Spokane or to Seattle. Seattle's a little closer. Spokane is a drive at night. So I would, either way, you want to make sure you have a car. I cannot stress it. I saw people trying to hitchhike. It can work, but you don't know who to trust. And again, it's not an Uber drive. It's not even a 45-minute Uber drive. You have to go through a mountain pass through Seattle, or you have to go through the back, flat eastern Washington to central Washington. It's to get from Spokane to the Gorge. But thank you guys again. We'll see what goes on. Stay tuned to Twitter. I'll let you know what I'm going to do for tomorrow with the show being in California. And I did the live streams when it was 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock when I was on West Coast time. But now I'm shifting back to East Coast time. Bend, Oregon. We'll see what we'll do. I'll let you know from there. Irvine, California. Again, this may be something I do in the morning. It just depends because these are later shows for me on the East Coast. So I'll keep you up to date for the 10th and the 11th. But Milwaukee, Saratoga Springs, these are shows that coming up in the middle of September that I will be able to it's more realistic for me to be out there. And Farm Aid, I will be there. Come back. I'll share, what I thought. You guys will be able to hopefully stream that. That should be able to be streamed as it is every year. As they stream it so you can donate and it raises awareness. So that should be a stream. But that's all I got for today. Again, thank you for the support. Thank you guys for comment, subscribing. Again, just overwhelmed with how everyone treated me this weekend, how everyone said hi, the conversations I had, meeting friends of friends. It was a wonderful Gorge, my second trip out there, and this will be a weekend I never forget. It's your boy Conservators 34. I am out. Peace.